So, I've decided to do a quick little summary of my previous Billie Eilish lore reveal, just so people don't have to dig through the whole 2 hour long video to get the key points. Though, if you want to get the whole story, you are going to have to dig through the 2 hour long video because this brief summary is not going to do the situation justice. That said, very long story, very short here. Hit Me Hard and Soft. It's not actually about anybody Billie is currently publicly affiliated with. It's about me and what she went through from the interactions we shared between December of 2022 and July of 2023, with the obvious exception of lunch. And I just recently decided to go public with this since, for one, her tour is finally over, so it's not going to stress her out as much now. For two, I just feel that it's fair for the people I know to know that I've been carrying this secret about my interactions with her for the past 3 years. And for three, and most importantly, I just wanted to share some wisdom and love with the world by telling the story and exploring some of the things I've learned and how my thoughts have evolved over time from our interactions since obviously, she's one of the most beloved people on the earth, and Hit Me Hard and Soft is, without too much room for debate, one of the most impactful albums of the past decade. So, honestly, I kind of thought that people would be happy and fascinated to hear about this, but unfortunately, the story was too fundamentally extraordinary for most people to believe it or bother to examine the evidence, which is, you know, somewhat understandable since I did intentionally leave most of the evidence in the latter half of the 2 hour long video. And Billie and I have kept our interactions completely off the radar for the past 3 years, and she's, for the most part, and she's, not going to admit it publicly anytime soon, just because realistically, there's no way for her to do that really makes sense or looks cool. So it's just kind of on me to break the ice publicly in this regard. So, uh, and all that said, now I'm just kind of in this somewhat odd social position where I've, benevolently and compassionately shared this extraordinary truth publicly, and the majority of people just refuse to examine the evidence and assumed I'm schizophrenic when I'm just completely telling the truth. And there's now this massive celebrity drama secret hidden right in plain sight that's mostly only held in check due to the fact that it's simply too fascinating to believe. So nobody reposted it. In any case, due to those and other factors, I'm going to go ahead and tell a very condensed recap of the story now, though, again, it's impossible to do much justice to the situation with something this short. So you're going to have to check out one of the other two videos if you want a few more details. So that said, here's the deal. So part of what Billie sings in The Diner, as well as in Chihiro, is literally and not figuratively true. Billie and I have actually been having visions about each other ever since she first started getting famous. And of course, she also mentioned such visions in Bittersweet. And this initially began due to the fact that we knew one another in a past life. However, it was a little bit more than just knowing each other, because Billie and I were actually married in a past life. Though when this was revealed to me spiritually in 2019, I didn't really think too much of it, mostly because it seemed too divorced from my life to probably ever matter, and I had many more important things occupying my mind, so I was more or less just kind of vaguely happy that someone I once knew was taking Hollywood by storm, and I didn't really dwell on it much beyond that when I first found out. Anyways, fast forward to December of 2022. I'd been crash landing in LA on a holy crusade for about 2 months, during which time I had delivered heartfelt handwritten letters to the home addresses of David Lynch, Jonathan Nolan, Melanie Martinez, and Quentin Tarantino, because I wanted to build a goddamn team of superheroes to help me fix the earth. And Billie Eilish was next on my list due to the whole past life thing, when I suddenly found out that I was actually in contact with an individual who could just straight up get me her phone number, which was quite convenient since I had actually been pleasantly surprised to discover that her address was much more difficult to hunt down than the others. Kind of which made me happy that she probably actually had some amount of privacy in her life. But it also made me uncertain that I would ever be able to get her the letter, even though I knew it was something that she would enjoy receiving. Because how can you not find it fascinating to have somebody who you've literally been dreaming about for at least 3 years suddenly show up in the real world. You know, it's not something that was going to blend in with her fan mail in any way, shape, or form, since I had written it in a way that she wouldn't be able to deny the reality of the situation, because I knew about the vision she'd been having, and I was able to elaborate on all of it in a very powerful and meaningful way that just couldn't be denied. So I took a couple pictures of that letter, and I casually dropped a bomb the approximate size of, you know, you've been seeing me in visions, we were married in a past life. Do you want to become an Avenger? I can teach you all sorts of spiritual and psychological things you might not be prepared for if you want to help me save the world. And also, I love you, but I love you in a pure-hearted, mature, and sacred way that I'm not sure you fully understand. Right in the middle of her DMs, in the middle of whatever else she had going on in life, just out of nowhere. uh, Now there's obviously a lot more to tell here, but I promise to keep this as short as possible, so I'm just gonna kind of rush through things and give you the bare skeleton of the situation now. So obviously Billie was a little blown away, basically kind of trying to figure out how to react to and process the concussive shockwave of that information and other things I started talking to her about for the first month or so. But then there was an immediate plot twist in my life in January when I met another ex-wife from a past life who I had to help out. And this is the woman who Billie is referring to in Wildflower, which I know might sound a little insane, but this is actually how it all went down. And at that point, Billie was still a little too nervous to want to hang out or talk much, so I kind of started paying more attention to the woman who I'll just refer to as Wildflower over the course of January, during which time things became very complicated in every possible direction in my life, including both of those directions, which led to me narrowly avoiding an apocalypse on Valentine's Day, but still ruining Billie's Valentine's Day by kind of accidentally disrespecting what I'd been building with her by kind of thinking that she wouldn't really expect anything from me on Valentine's Day, which I was very wrong about. During which time Wildflower crossed the line in certain ways and ended up in jail a couple weeks later. All of which essentially led to things steadily fading out between Billie and I, even though I wrote her pretty frequently for the next several months until I stopped writing her in July, and just kind of moved forward with my life and essentially figured that she had too, until Hit Me Hard and Soft came out. Now, you've all heard Hit Me Hard and Soft, but I don't think anyone on earth is fully capable of imagining how it sounded to me when I first heard it, when I was honestly completely unprepared for any part of her new album to be about me. Honestly thinking maybe I'd get one song or a reference or something, because I had honestly come to feel like Billie really just hadn't cared that much about what we'd been through and everything I'd written her previously. And then I suddenly heard her express the depths of what she'd actually been processing in this unimaginably profound and beautiful way, just suddenly having some of the most extraordinary music I've ever heard written to and about me when I was completely unprepared for it. Just shook my soul in a way that I could have never dreamed possible, in a way that can really scarcely be explained, honestly. And again, very long story, very short here. I've basically kind of been dedicated to, well, I've dedicated myself ever since then to supporting her and offering her spiritual and philosophical counsel in various ways. Even though she's been what I feel to be a little unreasonably skittish about actually addressing or processing any of the emotions that she explored in the album with me in the real world, which has honestly kind of worried me over time, because it's almost like she's been putting on a show for so long that the prospect of somewhat normal but meaningful and honest interpersonal conversations makes her more nervous than just always putting on a show for everyone. Regardless, though at this point I feel like I understand a lot of the stress that she deals with better than just about anybody else ever possibly could or will. So I'm basically committed to being her long-term, long-distance therapist until further notice. Um, and that's more or less where the dice have landed between Billy and I for now. That's the extremely condensed version of my previous reveal. The tip of the iceberg, if you will. So if you want the actual tip of the iceberg, if you want the rest of the lore, it's right over on my Regenesis YouTube channel. And that 2-hour version is honestly about as short as I felt I could tell the story without omitting crucial details. So feel free to ask an AI to summarize it for you so you don't have to think for yourself if you're curious, but not curious enough to actually hear me out. And if you want to check out some of the music I've been working on while you're over there, I'd love to get a few more listeners as well, since I've been putting a lot of love and effort into the music I've been making. And I have no idea how to get humans to actually listen to it. I just don't know how that works. I don't know how everybody else gets people to listen to their music when they have no followers, because it's kind of difficult to get people to click on things that they never see. But I'm pretty happy with the music itself, regardless of my digital invisibility cloak. So go ahead and check my music out. And feel free to learn some deep Billie Eilish lore while you're at it.